What is the deepest secret a friend has told you while wasted? One of my best friends growing up recently confessed in a drunken haze to me that his dad had molested him and his brother for 4 years. It didn't stop until his uncle caught his dad in the act and almost beat him to death. His uncle's brief prison stay was always a mystery before that. A friend of mine recounted to me in horrible, if slurred, detail how while his family were away on holiday, he walked into town during the dead of night with a hatchet up his sleeve and caved in the head of a homeless man before walking home in tears. And the worst thing is I'm black, but I got a small dick. My buddy told me that in 10th grade, and I've never forgotten it. He got a hand job from a dude for lending him $1 in 7th grade. My father got wasted when my mom was in the hospital for surgery. It was pretty serious and we were all stressed out, so we all drank together one night. Eventually we started talking about my mom and her idiosyncrasies. I asked him why she was always so forgiving and kind to my little sister, when she was so stern and by the books with me. My father told me that my mother had a child when she was 14, and this child was born on October 25th. My mother gave this child up for adoption because she was young and unable to care for it. When my little sister, the one I knew about and had grown up with, was born, it was also on October 25th. This wrecked my mom, and she thought it was God's way of punishing her for abandoning a child. My mother refused to hold or look at my little sister for the first few months of her life. I don't recall this, as I was very young at this time, because she couldn't deal with her guilt and grief. Eventually she was able to reconcile with her past and come to accept my little sister. Now she treats my little sister with super kindness, etc., because of her guilt over the way she treated her in her first months of life. I found out that night that I have a half-sister out there somewhere whom I've never met. Since that night, my father and I have never again spoken of this, and my mother doesn't know that I know. Not the deepest perhaps, but funniest. Him. I got involved in a threesome once. Me. Really. Him. With 2 other guys. Me. Okay, him. Yeah, I learned 2 things that time. Me. Him. It hurts and I'm not gay. My brother was an Army Ranger for 4 years, and while shit-faced drunk told me he had to fight child soldiers during his time in the Army. In high school we were wasted. She told me that the little girl she babysits is actually her child that she gave up for adoption a few years ago. No idea my good friend had a child at 14. Not to mention a child that I've met before and had no idea it was hers. We have this friend who has a lightning bolt tattoo that we always make fun of, mostly because he won't tell us what it means and it looks like the Gatorade symbol. One night a couple of months ago, he and I get drunk off straight vodka. He starts talking about getting more tattoos and his ideas, so I asked him if he'd tell me what the lightning bolt meant. He said back in 2008 he was going through a really rough patch and he started thinking about suicide. On one particularly hard night, he finally decided to go through with it. He had access to a couple of guns, took one and put it in his mouth and pulled the trigger. The gun jammed. He said the instant he pulled that trigger he regretted it beyond words and had never been more grateful for life. Apparently, that night there was a really rare thunder and lightning storm. We almost never get those here, and he saw the flash of lightning and realized his time wasn't up yet. He said he learned that night that no matter how bad life gets, it really does go on. He got the lightning bolt tattoo to remind himself. I had a new understanding of him that night. One of my buddies and I were pledging the same fraternity when he dropped a big one. I knew he was from some country in Africa, but he had been very private about it for the most part. Now I know why. He had been taken from his village in Uganda when he was very young and forced to watch them kill his family. He then killed about 14 people as a child soldier. Heavy stuff. My first girlfriend's best friend once told me that my GF had been raped by a family friend that let them live on his land for free in exchange for the family to fucking serve him, cook him dinner, feed his dogs, clean his house, and apparently rape their fucking daughter. Christ, the rage. It burns us. That my best friend would let random guys fuck her in her dorm while she was sleeping. She did not understand why I did not want to do that. I guess this isn't much, but considering she was such a devout Christian and such a virgin, it was something. She essentially told me that she liked feeling the pressure of someone else's boobs on her body. I've been an addict and a prostitute since I was 14. Not me, but a friend of mine was told this. He was sober and this other guy who was hammered recognized him at a party. He says, "Hey, I know you. You work in the post office on campus." To which my friend responds, Yeah, so, drunk guy says, "Guess what? You shipped 25 pounds of our marijuana from the student store in flat-rate boxes. Thanks, man." Then walked away. He was stunned and amazed. My best friend and I were out at a pub in 2010, and he was pretty wasted and I hadn't seen him in about 6 months. Which was rare for us because we were pretty close. He told me he thought he was going to die soon. He said he has never felt like this before, but I could tell he was really bothered. We brushed it off, of course, after a few minutes of talking about it. He laughed and said, "But hey, if I go, crack a beer at my funeral. Have a party, etc." The next month I was the last one to leave his coffin as they began to shovel him in the ground. He was locked out of his parents' house and grabbed a ladder to get in his second-floor bedroom window. He lost his footing when he got to the top and fell. He broke his neck and was found face down in the grass the next morning. 23 years old. It's a secret because I think he wanted to talk about it but didn't want anyone to think he was crazy. So he told his best friend. A straight, so he strenuously claimed, conservative friend once told me of how he had sucked off several random men at parties and enjoyed being anally fingered. It came completely out of left field. I guess he wasn't as straight as he insisted he was. My friend told me about her depression and anxiety, along with how she's been hearing voices in her head for a long time. Because we were both pretty drunk, I responded with, "Even in the wizarding world, hearing voices is a bad sign." Dude, my dad straight up killed someone once. Dave, shut up. No, seriously, he told me he did. He dumped his body in the ocean. The police questioned him, but they didn't have any evidence. His dad did spend some amount of time in prison, and Dave talked about all the drugs his dad used to do, even how his dad recommended doing drugs. His story unfortunately seems plausible. Cocaine is a truth serum. One of my close friends told me he fucked his mom. His dad left them when he was 17. I'm talking packed and moved to an unknown country one day. His mom got drunk that night, and he himself smoked a lot of weed. The dad barely had a sexual relationship with her, so they seduced each other and fucked all night. I asked him about it after he sobered up. Naturally, he freaked out, but I assured him I wouldn't tell anyone. I'd known him since college and he'd come through for me plenty of times. But that's not the worst of it. Apparently he got her pregnant, they aborted the child. Fuck. Thank you for watching this video to the end. In the comments below the video, write what's the best kept secret your friend told you. And also be sure to subscribe to our channel to not miss new super interesting videos, and I advise you to watch our other videos.